Hello, it's Leontine from Little Lovely Crafts. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and otherwise, welcome back. I'm sharing my third Halloween series card, and it's a pivot pop-up card. The scene I came up with is that the fox, the squirrel, and the little bird are really excited to dress up for Halloween, to go trick-or-treating, and they are thinking about all of the different outfits they can put on. And if you open the card, you see two options they can pick from. So on the left there's one option and the other is on the right. In the fox costumes before and after set, there's of course a fox and a little bird, but I wanted to add a third critter, so I got out my Let's Go Nuts set as well, and I altered two squirrels to give them Halloween outfits. I placed one of the squirrels on my acrylic block, and I got out another acrylic block and placed it almost on top, and I just kind of put my witch hat and broom stamp underneath, and that way I could see through my first acrylic block to get it in the right position. Another option is to put those extras on top of your stamp set, because there are black lines on your stamp set and you can just position them and pick them up with an acrylic block. Then you can stamp them and also stamp them on some masking paper. In my case I used full stick post-it notes. I cut them and placed them on top, and then I could stamp the squirrel. I used my Copic multi-liner to finish those black lines that had disappeared from stamping this way. The other squirrel was a little more tricky to stamp because of course he has a tail to the side, and if you stamp it like I did on my first try, you get the bat wings behind the tail, which doesn't make sense really. So what I did was I got ink on my stamp and wiped off the ink from the tail. Then I stamped the body of the squirrel, masked it off. I stamped the wings on both sides, and you have to do them one at a time because it's wider than your squirrel. And then I went in with some masking tape again, and I put masking tape on the right wing as well, and then I stamped the full stamp on it again to get the tail part, and then I used my multi-liner to complete those lines that went missing. I felt like coloring the other day, so I've already colored most of my images, but some of the newer ones I will share with you right now, and I will show you which Copic markers I used. Now I will do some coloring on video, and you can see the colors I'm using because I am placing the cap up on my work surface. If you want to skip ahead, and I don't blame you if you do, you can go to 6 minutes and 38 seconds. I die cut these two pieces from some Lawn Fawn 80-pound cardstock. I thought it was just a nice thinner cardstock to work with. I'm using a bone folder to reinforce my nice crisp folds, and then I'm using some score tape to attach the two pieces together. I thought I would create a spooky sky using the cloud stencil. I have the My Favorite Things stencil and I'm using the mini clouds. I started off using Twisted Citron and Wilted Violet, but then later on I decided to put some peacock feathers on top, and it gave a really nice effect. It just blended the two colors together and gave that, well, spooky kind of background I was hoping for. This was something I didn't plan on, it just happened. I started creating the clouds and then I went over it with my Twisted Citron because I thought it was just too white in the background still. And then I got the idea to add the peacock feathers. And I don't know, I just went with it and it looked really cool blending the three colors together. You'll want to make sure you don't put on too much ink because then you won't see your stenciling anymore. And of course I had to add my liquid stardust mixed with water mixture. I splattered it on, and of course it doesn't do as much as it would on a background with less ink, but it just gives a nice spooky glowy effect anyway, and I just went with it. I'm using the largest Outside Ink stitch rectangle stackables, and I die cut a piece of white cardstock with it, and I also die cut a piece of black licorice cardstock from Lawn Fawn, and that is what I will use to die cut the stitch tree border. I used the same inking technique on the white panel and made sure that everything was dry before I continued working on my panels. I'm adding a little more Twisted Citron in the center of my card to make it look like there's a glowy moon hiding there. So here you can see I changed my little bird and I made it into a sort of red robin. I used my darkest oranges. I believe I used Y18 and Y16, and I used some warm grays, and I used E44 on his head as well. It just makes them look a little more natural. And I'm coloring these pumpkins and leaves. If you don't want to see it, skip ahead to 11 minutes and 14 seconds. Before I do anything else, I'm going to heat emboss the sentiment, and I wanted to say let's trick or treat. The let's is from the holiday party animal, and the trick or treat is of course from the fox costume before and after set. For those of you paying close attention to my card, you might see that I stamped some stars on there. I wanted to cover them with the glow-in-the-dark powder from Lawn Fawn, but for some reason, it might be because I didn't use enough ink or something, but it just wouldn't dry completely. And when I wanted to wipe off my anti-static powder, I just wiped off the stars as well. I don't know what happened there, but I was thinking I could never position the stars in the same place again, so I just wiped everything off and hoped that no one would notice. I'm using a combination of liquid glue and some really thin foam squares to attach all of my critters and pumpkins and leaves to the scene. And once they are on there, I can just try and find a paper to match the background, and I'm die cutting that paper with the largest stitched rectangle stackables. It was the colorful stripy paper from the Into the Woods remix 6x6 inch paper pack. And now it's time for the pivot pop-up part. I have die cut it from some peacock cardstock from Lawn Fawn, and because that is a quite thicker cardstock, I'm using my scoreboard to go over my folding lines again, and that way it makes it a little easier to fold. And I'm using score tape to attach my pivot pop-up part to my card base. The sentiment Happy Halloween on the inside of my card is something I stamped with the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink, and I used my Stamp Easy for this because I wanted to make sure it was in the right place and that if I needed to stamp it twice, I could easily do it. And because my card base is also out of peacock cardstock, I wanted to decorate it a little bit so it has more interest going on, and I decided to use some merman ink and all kinds of different Halloween-y stamps that are small enough to make a nice pattern in the background. As you can see, I'm using my Stamp Easy tool to position and pick up the stamps. I'm inking them twice because I want a nice dark impression. The reason I didn't attach anything to my card yet is because if I made a mistake with the stamping of my background, or if I didn't like how it turned out, I could just easily fix it by making a new one. But I am happy with the way it is and I'm assembling everything. And then I can just play around with the card a few times to make the mechanism work as best as possible, and then my card is all finished. And so we've come to an end of my third Halloween series card. I hope you liked watching it. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, and if you hit the bell icon, you will get notified when my new video is online. Thanks so much for watching, have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to see what you all make with the new Lawn Fawn release. See you next time, bye!